My name is Ron Sibley, and I was born in Cottage Grove, Oregon, 1954.
When did you realize you wanted to join the Navy?
Well, one of the reasons is I had one of my cousins that was in the Navy, and he was passing through, and he stopped. And, he was in his uniform, and he had a whole bunch of stories to tell about being in Vietnam and traveling all over overseas and all that. And I thought it was pretty neat. That's what I want to do. All the places, especially that my cousin had talked about, Bangkok and Philippines and Guam and Korea, Hong Kong, all those places. That's where I wanted to go. That's what I did. Yeah, it wasn't any problem signing up at all. I don't even remember there being very much paperwork. I think it was more just sign here. But they made it really easy if you wanted to go. I didn't even think you had to pass it. I don't even remember taking any kind of an aptitude test or anything.
What was it like doing that? What was the training like?
It wasn't very pleasant. They were pretty rough with you back in those days. Pretty rigorous. If you made any mistakes, you were going to suffer for it. I can remember we had our first company commander, who was a chief petty officer, in boot camp, was what we called a hitter. And if you'd get out of line or make a mistake or something, he'd hit. And I can remember we were marching in formation one time, and one of the young fella ahead of me got out of step, and this sergeant, it wasn't a sergeant, he was the chief petty officer, came up and hit him right in the back of the head and just about knocked him to the ground. And after that, he was gone. That chief petty officer was gone.
And then, after training, what happened?
Anyway, so I just showed up where I was supposed to, and they put me on a plane and flew me to the Philippines.
And what did you do there?
I landed in Clark's Air Force Base, and we went to Subic Bay. After a couple weeks, they finally put me on the USS Kitty Hawk, and then we sailed out to the Gulf of Tonkin, which is on patrol there in Vietnam, because my ship was out on patrol and night out, and we just were getting close to being on station in Vietnam, and they had the race riots that broke out on the Kitty Hawk, and they lasted for 2 nights, and then they canceled the orders for Kitty Hawk, and they sent it back to the United States, and they flew me to the Enterprise by helicopter. And then I was on the helicopter just for a short time, or the Enterprise for just a short time, and then flew me to my ship, USS Long Beach.
What can you tell me about the USS Long Beach?
USS Long Beach was a nuclear-powered guided missile cruiser, and it was specifically built to escort the USS Enterprise, because the Enterprise is a nuclear-powered ship. And if you got a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, you really need nuclear-powered support.
Are there any, particularly memorable stories, from your job?
We had a fire on board ship that was, 2 or 3 times we had fires, but we had a fire on board ship, and so the division I was in we were all technicians. We were the firefighting crew on the ship, and they would send us out to fight fires, but I could smell it as soon as I woke up. So I thought, man, that's a long ways away, and I already smell smoke. So the number one hose man on the fire team, and the fire was 4 decks straight down through a hatch. Of course, you have to stop and gear up. You put on your oxygen breathing apparatus and all that, so smoke doesn't kill you. And anyway, so we went down through the hatch, and you're trained to feel for heat. So we checked for heat, and we didn't feel any heat or anything. And it turns out that it was the lagging had caught on fire on the forward diesel generator, and it never really did all that much damage. It was just a lot of smoke. Well, the diesel generators are huge. Diesel engines, and that was the exhaust system. They lag it with lagging material to control the heat and all that. So it just got overheated and caught on fire. Maybe had some dust or dirt or something.
Were you ever a part of any large incidents in the Vietnam War?
just before the end of the war, we'd been sent up north, tailing a new Russian ship that had been built. And we were trying to, from what I understand, we were taking samples and stuff, trying to decide what kind of fuel that new ship was burning. And there was I can't remember the incident now. It sticks in my mind. It was called the Mayaquez incident. Vietnamese people had taken over one of the U.S.-owned ships and hijacked it. Well, we caught up with them and pulled up alongside, and we had our Marines were all on deck ready to go over to try to retake the ship.
Were you ever involved with maintaining those or using them at any point in time?
Well, we fired some missiles, and I don't know what we ever hit, but they never did tell us.
What was your role on the ship?
What my job was I was a damage controlman, and those were very high security areas. So we did all the welding, and we took care of all the damage control. We would have training exercises that were very closely watched, where we would go in, simulate putting out fires. You have to put on all your hazmat gear, and just as training in case something ever did happen.
Were you aware of any of the stuff going on back home in the United States?
The guys that really had that the worst were the guys that when they get home would land at an airport someplace, and they'd have crowds waiting there to demonstrate. It just made you not want to wear your uniform when you're going home on leave, or a lot of times you're going home on leave. It was nice to wear your uniform, especially if you're going to be hitchhiking, because you always get a ride with your uniform.
You feel people should remember?
Well, I'd be better off to forget it all.